I want that. Special delivery. I need that. Special delivery. Welcome to the Special Delivery Podcast. I am your host, Special, and on this show, I like to do one of two things. Either I'm highlighting brand new music that's dropped, or I'm sitting down with artists to break down everything you don't know and should know about their latest project, and that's what we're doing on this episode. Draper stopped by to break down his latest project, Mercy, and we talked about every single track, and we included topics like killing your ego, breaking your sense of entitlement, and just the journey that he's gone through in his whole career and while making this project. And I do have to warn you, I get a little excited, so there are a couple loud moments on this podcast, but we just had such a great time and just such important conversations about life and artistry and creativity. So let's hop into it.
Yo, this is Draper, repping at the Ave Records in Brave area, Richmond, California. Let's get it.
Yay! I'm so glad to hear Draper on the Special Delivery Podcast.
What's up, Spesh?
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm always good when I see you.
I'm good when I see you. I don't even know if people know this, but you're like my favorite.
They gotta know.
There's a small list, and you're on it. And it's crazy because I've only known you barely a year.
Yeah.
But the people know when you connect with somebody, you connect. And when somebody makes incredible music, I have tops already connect with them. So it's just a beautiful thing, man. So we're going to get all into that. Mercy has dropped. You kind of sprung it on us, but I'm so happy that you did. Before we even get into Mercy, I have to apologize. You probably don't even notice it, but we did an episode of the podcast where we were talking about rock. Mm-hmm. And I was so fascinated and interested in the story behind it because the story behind that's incredible. If you haven't heard that episode, listen to it after this. But I went back and I listened to it a couple weeks ago, and the lines and the bars that you put on that shit, I'm like, oh goddamn, we didn't even really get into it on the podcast because we were so interested in the DNA and the samples and all the different things. And I'm like, man, I really missed an opportunity to really talk to Monty about the bars. So you dropped Mercy, and I'm like, okay, cool. Now we can talk about bars and get into lines and all types of dope shit. So I just wanted to publicly apologize.
No, it's all good. It's so dope with music like that. Like my cousin, one of my cousins that I grew up super close with too. She was on her way to work this morning, and she posted the joint with me and Kevin Allen from Rock though. Mm-hmm. And she hit me later. It was like, this whole album is dope, and I was like, damn, people are just getting rock. So Mercy, I gotta be patient and still work the record, so I appreciate it. That's what you do it for, to have something that has shelf life and replay value and people can grow into. We were talking about that earlier. A lot of stuff, you gotta grow into it, you know what I'm saying? You may not be in a place to receive it, or it may not have hit you, or the reference may not have caught up with you at that point, but after you reference it and you go back, you're like, oh, and that's what's so dope about Genius and doing lyric book. People are doing lyric books again, and I feel responsible for that, getting people to pay attention to the words, No,
off tops, I think Mercy really does that. In listening to it, I understand the place that you're in, and I relate to the place that you're in, and there's just so many gems within it. So I feel like the same thing, either people feel it right now or they're gonna feel it soon, and it's so important to really feel that and understand where you're coming from. Gonna get started with the title. Why Mercy?
There's a play on everything. It's going through a transformation, if you will, and there's this part of you that has to forgive yourself, but then also take responsibility. To externalize any hurt, any guilt, anything just didn't seem beneficial for the space that I was heading into. So we're just talking about mercy. I wanted to display some sort of mercy for myself. So I didn't because there's this, it's always a balance, you know what I'm saying? So you don't want to be so hard on yourself to the point where you don't continue and grow from the lessons, but you also want to hold yourself accountable, So it's this delicate balance personally, but then also within maneuvering in the industry. I kept every meeting, everything, I kept hearing yo fam, you too nice for this industry. You're way too nice for it. They're going to eat you alive. It's oh, bet. I think I understand that now. And when we were making rock and we were shopping rock and we were doing all that, that's when it was most challenging, because we would take these meetings, people would love the music, and then something would happen to where it was just a display of assertiveness. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what you hear in the record. And it's just yo, I want to be graceful and want to walk this balance of being being merciful, but at the same time understanding the power and when and where to flex that power. And you know, and it's delicate, you know, like anything else is delicate, but at the same time it's just asserting yourself. Is what the title represents for me.
I was gonna get into it later, but it kind of fits in right now. On drugs, you say playing the game fair, but expect to be the man.
Mm-hmm.
Lyrically, I'm Ozzy. The labels couldn't shot me. Didn't buy enough followers. Goddamn, playing the game fair. You expect to be the man? Oh Lord, it's algorithm over feeling. Last year the labels did 180 million. Why the rappers never get inside the building? Distracted by your mentions, better pay attention. Oh Lord, celebrity, what a drug. I was way more faithful to my plug.
My God. like why you gotta take pages out of my autobiography, my diary? But for anybody who's, I mean, we think a lot about like the music industry and stuff like that, but there's all types of games within all types of corporate
100%.
ladders, places, stuff like that. What was that like writing that?
It was telling because people don't know, man, like a lot of my friends, like my near and dear friends and relatives and because even, you know, you have relatives, you don't necessarily consider them friends, but like my sisters are my best friends. My brother, his daughters are my goddaughters, you know, so those are my best friends, but they're really, really successful within their worlds and they're completely different than music. But when you hear about the stuff that they're dealing with, it's not at all, you know, and so you hear it all the time. But like my brother, for example, they just got the bid to work on Chase Stadium for the Warriors, but the shit that they had to go through to get that bid was nuts, you know what I'm saying? But the proof is in the work that they've done, the foundation that they laid. Both of my sisters are businesswomen, so seeing what they go through to assert themselves, like my middle sister, she's a woman, again, working, and I know you can relate, a woman working against all this male energy and this male ignorance, and she constantly gets looked over for positions and roles and stuff. And I remember her being so frustrated to the point of wanting to give up, and she just dug deep, and it resonates so much, and that's where we can kind of come together and lift each other up, because it's what I deal with, you know. It's where you think you're playing the game fair and writing for yourself and producing for yourself and going to the studios and paying for mixing and mastering and just dealing with people accordingly, and then when you talk about what the real currency is in terms of social media, your followers and all that, you're like, oh man, such and such is popular and the song is doing really well, and come to find out you can buy plays on Spotify, you know, you can buy views on YouTube. Like they talk about World Star, but YouTube, you can do the same thing. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that, you can purchase for all of that, which is your leverage to go on these meetings. And a lot of artists don't know that. Like it's artists that we're really cool with, that we're like me, people like me and you are fans of, that are struggling, ready to quit because they don't know where to turn to. And they're competing with people who have capital and who have a backing to purchase the things that become the leverage to get you the looks. So it's this real odd it's the Matrix. It 100% is. And I'm just here to be an advocate and ally for the artists and creatives like us, so that we don't lose our minds, because it will drive you crazy. It 100% will. And that's what that line was. It's like, okay, bet. I'm trying to be the man, but I'm trying to play the game fair. Fam, they don't go hand in hand. So get over that right now, you know? So
Definitely. And that's the thing, like everything can be bought. Every single part of it. You go onto Facebook and they're like, oh, give us $10 to promote this, it'll go far. I'm like, nah, like I'm not giving you a dime, Facebook. Fuck you guys. Like, what? That's not how this works.
And that's the business. So we're creating the content, right? But the real genius is getting in on the advertising side, because the consumers need to see it and the creators need to be seen. Mm-hmm. So where's the void where the most money is going to be spent? It's in advertising dollars. You see it where it was magazines and newspapers. All right, bet everybody's off that. They're on the digital now. Now all the advertising dollars are being spent with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all. Like, dog, like it hasn't changed. Advertising is drawing it, whether it be TV, with your commercials and stuff, and they're paying top dollar for our content, but we're not seeing the back end royalties where we have to go leverage it somewhere else. So I got exposed to some different shit this year. So that's what the music sounds like, you know? Yeah.
But I think it's such an important place, like you said, for creatives, but also just people trying to make it and living an honest life while seeing so much dishonesty happening around them. Yep. Call it whatever you want. Then we got to get into my other favorite line from Drugs. Talent don't mean a thing when you don't know who you are.
Man.
Whew.
Man.
Just a moment of silence for that. Do you remember where you were when you came to that conclusion and what that was like?
Yeah, I do. Because I was just thinking about some of my peers who I deem extremely talented. You know, like I don't know how in the sports you are in basketball, but the whole Jimmy Butler situation, he said it straight up. Like he was speaking for, at least for me, where he's like, yo, I'm not the best shooter. I'm not the most athletic. I don't do this. I don't do that. But what no one is going to do is outwork me. You know what I'm saying? And I can relate to that in a lot of regards where this industry in particular is predicated on a lot of things that aren't necessarily indicative of how hard you're going to work. And one thing people are going to do is outwork me. And that's why I watched a lot of my peers who I deem more talented than me, especially in collegiate sports. Like some of my homies could jump out the gym, jump shot was incredible, could do all these different things, but they weren't secure with who they were. And so when people like mentoring a lot of kids, and I was like, yo, what was the thing that broke out you through? Because college is hard. I don't care what nobody says. I knew who I was. So when I got there, I didn't lose myself. I didn't get wrapped up in all the wrong things. I didn't get too distracted. Like, yeah, you sway because you're young and you're going through stuff, but you could always be centered at some point or another. And I remember that's the one thing that's been keeping me going, especially to be honest with you, as a creative, especially at this on the independent level, it's not a lot of bread right now. And that one thing that keeps you consistent is the work ethic, but that is 100% attributed to knowing who you are.
And I think those lines almost tie in together too, because you have to know that I know who I am, so I know that I'm gonna play fair regardless, even if it doesn't give me a leg up. Like I know I'm just gonna work hard, do my thing, and that will work. But it's like, especially when you think about talent and celebrity and fame and all these weird things, like if you don't know who you are,
it'll kill you.
You're done.
It'll 100% eat you alive. And so my one thing to anybody, no matter how old you are, if you're getting into this thing and it's all about visibility, which then is about fame and leveraging your celebrity, if you don't know who you are, that's not the place for you, because you're likely to take shape of whatever encompasses you. If you get lucky enough to get around some good people when you get in there, bet. But chances are you're not going to be around no good people in there, and it's going to take over, and you'll never be the same ever again. So be comfortable in who you are, get around some good people, stay around some great people with vision, with morals and all kind of stuff. Your morals don't have to be the same, but they at least got to have some base principles, where you guys can agree and disagree and learn. Agreeing and disagreeing is all about learning and pushing each other too, And
of course, with that song, Emily McLean, how did you team up with her?
So I just like you, when I got this thing about we're so quick to say what we don't like, under a comment. And even when we were with our friends, oh man, I didn't like such and such, versus putting people on. So I remember in 2013, I made a vow to put people on the stuff that I like versus using energy to talk about stuff I didn't really care for. Similar to your show, Emily played a show with us in the West, and it was just her and her guitar. Mind you, this is at a warehouse party, and the whole party, like normally people fade it, they hide, they gonna talk shit because they hear who is this with a guitar. The whole warehouse was just like stuck and vibing, and her voice is incredible, but then also some of the chords she was playing on the guitar was just like to die for. And I remember like, yo, I really want to work with her. Had her on the podcast, and we sort of built a rapport and just stayed in touch, just like letting her know what a fan I was. Because like that night I went home and got her project. Damn, I hate that I can't remember the name of it, but Emily McLean Music, y'all go check her out on Instagram and go listen to her last project from last year. And fire. So I reached out to her. It had the verses already, but something was missing. And then I didn't even tell her what the concept was. I just sent her the song, and she was like, yo, I think I got something. She was in the middle of getting married, like planning and going to the wedding, and took time out to do it. So, Emily, I love you for that, and such a fan, you know.
I've never planned a wedding, but man.
But I can only imagine, you know, I'm the same way. I'm like, it's got to be crazy.
People say all the time, it's one of the craziest things you'll do. I believe them, because that's a lot of work. Yeah. Goodness, man. No, and what you were even saying about, you know, people always say, like, don't take the energy to bash what you hate, uplift what you like. I think that's become a personal mantra of mine. Like,
100%.
Always a champion, never a critic. Why are we even wasting energy being critics? Who are we to even say what's bad?
It sells, it's diverse. You can come in, you can stir the pot. And we're seeing, you know, from Skip Bayless to Joe Budden, all these people that have been able to monetize being anti-anything. Now it's the cool thing to keep it a buck. I get off putting homies on something that I really, really love. Like Elle said it on the podcast this past week. Is like, yo, from Mick Jenkins to No Name Gypsy. And then I came in and I was talking about Shmino. He was like, he hadn't heard Shmino yet. And then to me, Shmino, Raj, Mick Jenkins, like Iman Europe, like they're all in this class of like new school leaders that are the GOATs to me already. You know, Shmino's 2 projects in, Raj is to the public 2 projects in, and Iman Europe just dropped some fire, and I'm like, yo, they're on another level of special for me, you know. So it's like putting the homies on new stuff, you know, because it's a lot of new fire out.
It makes perfect sense. Then I wanted to talk about Escape.
Uh-oh.
Wash my sins when the rain comes. Just wake me up when the pain comes. Just wake me up, I couldn't tell you where it came from. My folks, that's friends, the same ones. Okay. I wash my sins when the rain comes. Locksmith. Just wake me up when the pain's done.
I was starting to slip, I was starting to fail. Started second guessing my blessings, rejecting myself.
Locksmith. I feel like I've heard this story multiple times, and I don't even know how and where and why, but there's this story that I hear you tell about being in Atlanta and being with Locksmith and having to choose between Follies and Stankonia.
Yeah, right?
Like when you told it on the podcast, I think it was last week, I was like, I've heard this story before.
Because we did a sketch show. I was trying to pitch Brave Area, the series. This was early too. This was like before Atlanta and all this. I had this idea about this collective of creatives that was struggling to get on. So it was like a director, a rapper, a producer, and then somebody who worked like a corporate 9-to-5, but they all lived in this house. And one of the segments is me and Sue talking about the first time at strip clubs, and that's where that story comes from, or where it originates. And it's just taking on a life of its own the more I tell it, because I'll remember little details. Yeah. But Locke, shout out to Locke, man. I growing up, this is like 7th, 8th grade, he was battling on Cameo, and I would rush home after games to record the battle because I wanted to be able to run it back, rewind it, and break down the tape. And so, you know, and like you and a few people reached out when the project dropped because they knew how big of a deal that was to me. Like, Locke don't even know. He's such a homie. He was like, yeah, bro, I got you. Like it was nothing. And I'm on the other end of the phone, like, damn near shaking, like, bro's really going to do this verse. And then, you know, normally it takes a really long time, and he just sent it back one day, like, no warning, no nothing. He's like, oh, yeah, check your email. And I checked my email, and it was like, I called my mom, I called everybody. It was like, yo, Locke gave me a verse. And I'll tell anybody, like, entitlement will ruin you too, you know, because when I first started, we knew some of the same people. So here I am, one project in, thinking I'm going to get a Locke verse. And low-key felt the way when he didn't do it, like, yo, he don't mess with me. And then it's like, bro, who are you? This is Locksmith. He ain't just gonna give you no verse, bro. You better earn that. Like, show your growth. And when he came to the studio to hear Rock, he just looked at me like, oh, there it is. You made that leap. And he was like, bro, whatever you need, I got you after that. And he true to his word, man. So Locke is big bro, always will be. He's got a new project coming out. I've heard it, and I'm so excited for him because it feels like this is gonna be a shift for him too, you know. So yeah.
Such a beautiful thing. I feel like some people don't even make it to that place to where they can earn something. Like they get so discouraged by people being like, oh no, not right now. Yeah. And then to finally reach that place where it's like, oh shit, I earned this. And you can see it. Whew.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. Well,
yeah, proud. That was a proud day.
So good. Then we get into what you doing this for.
Been fighting all my life. The love feels foreign. More on Magic Brown, only sleep if my niggas scoring. Still climbing, wanna be sure my people soaring. Still climbing, wanna be sure my people soaring. Said it twice, so my intentions are documented forever. Every door slammed in my face only ever made me better.
What was it like making that one?
What you doing this for is special. Another, I don't even want to say up and coming because it doesn't feel fair. I feel like he's working hard to establish himself, but a producer, Rye Mann, and he's other crew, check Coastal, so shout out Phil, Cam, that whole crew. But Rye Mann, he's doing, and I don't know how many people know, but he's doing a 365 beat challenge. So he's done a beat every day. Literally, like if you check IG every day, he's putting up a beat, he's doing the cover art, he's mixing it, he's mastering it.
Jesus, that's more than just making a beat.
Oh no, that's what I mean. So
much.
So I like when I saw that, I was like, yo, I fully appreciate this. And we actually met on some podcasts and shit. Like we didn't even meet on no music. Like the Trey Coastal podcast, 20 for 20 is dope. One of my another favorite show too.
No, if you haven't checked that out, make sure you do it. There, just the idea behind it, like
dope.
Talking to people, but also making a song, and they'll bring people in who don't even really rap or sing or nothing. So to hear the music that comes out of people who don't traditionally do that is incredible, and they're just great musicians in themselves.
Exactly. So. Phil is a freestyle king. He'll rap your face off, so don't none of y'all want it. Stop. But Rye Mann, one of the beats he put up, I think I was like cooking or something, doing something hella random, maybe folding clothes or something random like that. And I heard it and I was like, oh, I need this. And I texted him, I'm like, yo, bro, I need this one. He was like, bet. Not, like, didn't even think about it. Sent it to me. Dead ass, like 5 minutes. Wrote that first verse and that chorus and recorded it, sent it to him. He was like, okay. It fit the narrative of that collection of songs because they're recorded fairly close together. Like it's not very spaced out with the exception of the Kevin Allen joint. The rest of them are done super in tandem. And so the energy and the inspirations are really close. But that song in particular is just like, again, knowing who you are, figuring out what your price is and what you're going to stand on and what you're working so hard for and why you're so dedicated. To get clarity on that, I don't know how many people have had that moment, but once you get that clarity, you feel unstoppable. It's just the bottom line of it,
That resilience is ridiculous. Like just being like, nope, this is what I do. I actually skipped Humble. We got to talk about Humble.
Uh-oh.
You got to help me because this verse you just go in. Yeah. So I'm going to start it off and then you're going to take it. So you go, forever thankful for my breakthrough. Uh-huh. And then there's, I think, 2 or 3 really dope lines after that.
Forever grateful for my breakthrough. Don't suppress your shine out of fear that they gon' hate you. Find comfort in your fall way before they celebrate you. Drake to the Jumbotron had to skip basic cable.
Man.
Basically, yeah.
That verse, those bars, just really summing up like you have to go through this breakthrough and you have to just maneuver yourself into these situations like we've been talking about without getting discouraged and without being upset. Talk to us a little bit as much as you want about that breakthrough and those bars in themselves.
It's just Humble in particular is just realizing how much our ego is driving everything. And you're not really able to identify it until you have said breakthrough. The lock situation, for example, had I not had the breakthrough of not being an entitled brat, I would be harboring something that just was false. And we do that a lot even in relationships. Like it's a lot of ego. For example, if you're dealing with your significant other and your significant other is articulating a feeling of something that you did that invoked something in them, but you can't hear past them just expressing to you, like that's just pure ego. So shit as simple as that. And on the flip side, the criticism and the critiques, like you sign this contract when you sign on to be a creative. Like especially when you upload it to SoundCloud, if you make it to Spotify, if you make it to anywhere, you sign yourself up for both sides of it. So getting too high or too low, that's just ego. So second you kill that off, you be straight. But it's a process to even kill that off because of whatever entitlement is operating. It's a lot of different things operating within us internally that determines when we get there. But the sooner you get there, you're gonna be all right because it all happens. It all falls into place the second you kill off your ego.
A lot of us really use it as a protective layer
100%.
too. Breaking out of that protective layer and really coming into yourself and being like, okay, like I was just using this ego to protect myself, now I need to be vulnerable and open myself up to these things because that's what real life is and that's who I really am.
Yep.
So definitely. And then Illumimani.
I don't say grace or be food if when it comes to pay it tight when I come through. Feel your thoughts. Pride is what the love do. Now
running out the flames without a scratch or burn. Crossroad, I had it turn. Brushing ashes off, my passion off, but shit I had to learn.
GQ,
Wow.
my dog. Shout out Jamla, man.
If people listen to this podcast, they already know that I'm a super fan of GQ.
GQ's a man.
There's an episode with him. He's just so incredible. Just Oakland's finest for real.
But you got to see him in the studio because he just makes it look so easy. Like, he was here. Damn, Q was probably here for like a month and a half this summer.
Damn.
He actually came to the house to record a lot of this. They got some shit coming. Him and Sndtrak and Zenan, they got some shit. Jamla is a squad. 2 is out now. So grab that. Kels and everybody. Like, I'm so proud of the Bay and like how we're represented on that side because Jamla is a staple. And again, that there's backstory, there's history with him. He's another Oakland native that I grew up watching hoop. He was just nice at hoop. He made it to UNC. Like, everybody's dream is to go D1, but he went major D1 and it didn't pan out, and it could have, barring an injury and some other things, and bruh's been through it, but he puts it all in the music. And that same work ethic he had on the court, he applies to the music, and he's unfuckwittable. Like, Q is really the truth. Like, and it was such an honor to work with him. You should have seen how I asked him for a verse. It was just hella nervous. He had come to my house like 3 or 4 times, and I didn't even ask him at the house. I asked him when we were at another studio. Like, yo, man, you think, he was like, bruh, duh. Why you acting all weird? Like, I got you. Again, it's just earning the respect of your peers. It means so much, you know, so.
Why did you name it Illuminati?
Part of the ego death, too, is having fun, you know, and when you're having fun, you're liable to say anything. You know, you just, and then, but what I was doing, I was having fun, and then I would edit what the fun looked like. And so there would be this character missing in a lot of the raps. This is prior to rock, because rock is when I found that method of just like, yo, I'm not editing nothing. Whatever comes out, we going with it, you know? And then from rock to Mercy is sort of perfecting that. And Illuminati is just a play on that entire concept of the Jay-Z's and the Puffs being an Illuminati, but the Illuminati is supposed to be the most racist, discriminatory group ever. And it's just weird backhanded way of saying people of color can't be successful. The second that they gain any notoriety or any success, they've sold their soul to the devil, and it's usually the opposite. They're the ones praising God the most, you know, but in a way in which people don't converse about spirituality or religion or the relationship with God, and so it throws them off when it feels like a real personal relationship. It was just my nod or my slight to people who continuously say that, because it is a real backhanded way to say, oh, such and such is successful, but he sold his soul to get it, or she sold her soul to get it. It's like, no, they don't, because they're black. They can't reach this level of success without selling their soul. It's so backhanded. But the sad part about it is it's usually black people pushing that narrative. It ain't white people pushing the Illuminati narrative. It's usually black people doing it. And then now white people are getting comfortable to join in on that conversation. And it's just I remember seeing that, and I was like, why are we having this conversation about somebody that's successful and taking away from their genius or whatever it is that made them successful, you know? So I think they were doing it about Issa Rae. And they were trying to be funny, but I didn't think it was funny because it was taken away from the overall narrative. It just, like, can we talk about what she's been through?
Jeez, I didn't see that. I don't want to see that. But yeah, like, really taking away from like the talent and hard work that goes into it. Like, it's ridiculous. Yeah. No slight to you, but that's a way better answer than I thought it was going to be, because listening to your podcast, I know that you are, you know, conspiracy body. So I thought it was like, I thought it was something like that. But Jesus, okay, take us on that ride then. All right. Damn. A little food for thought for the people. I love that shit. Yeah. Oh man. And then we get to Blood in the Water.
The underground kings on the day shift make around the world gassed up off the hatred. I bet Universal never try to take from me. I'm too dedicated, may wait for me. Yeah. March on through the city, just my bait. Don't me take money, say something. Fuck that, the greats coming.
Man, they playing with me like a nigga won't spray something. Real humble like a nigga won't pray for you. I be trying to find a balance every day, cousin. It's a lot of niggas rapping, ain't saying nothing. Fucking, I'm here nothing. Niggas, man, I got some bread coming.
I want them all to see when it's far to me. That's just
Kevin Allen, the GOAT.
You're one of the only people that can really get him to rap anymore.
I feel lucky too, because it's like I could call him no matter what time. He'd be like, bro, where the studio at? All right, I'm on my way. You know, like that's the relationship. And he, after the release party for Mercy, he called me the next day and Kev, don't kill me for this, bro, but I gotta share it because again, he's somebody else I was listening to going like, yo, he's the truth. I want to be that good one day. So to have his respect, but he called me after the release party and was like, yo, bro, like you're the only person that can get me outside. Like I respect what you're doing. You understand this music shit and you dedicate it in a way that the others aren't. So I just want you to know that I appreciate you. And he just thinking it's good. Like, oh yeah, and I'm on the phone like, bro, what is happening right now? Like these are my heroes. You know what I'm saying? Like there's all the big names and stuff, but Locke and Irk and stuff like that, like having access to them means so much. And he came to my house to make that song. I was hella proud to show off, like make beats for him and stuff. And he OG'd me. He was just like, nah, fam, watch out. And then to start making stuff, like he was making one and I was like nodding my head, but I obviously wasn't vibing enough for him. And he's like, all right, you ain't feeling that one. So he stopped, started making something else, and then it was that. I started mumbling that hook, and he was like, lay that right now. I was like, bro, I don't even have no words. He's like, so? Just lay that. That's how that song was made. We were having a conversation, like back and forth, and it's like, that's the song. That's the song right there. And so that's how that came about. So Blood in the Water is easily, like, I'll never forget that night. It was just special.
I love the back and forth of it, like almost cipher-ish. Like I feel like that's so important for you guys from Rock Until Now, like hearing your guys' repertoire and being able to really bounce off each other like that. I think it's so dope. So that's just kind of how it happened.
That's exactly how it happened. Was just like, yo, this is, because he would say something and I'd be like, damn. I'd say something and he's like, yo, this is how the song should feel. You know, we didn't know at the time because I laid the hook that was just playing on loop, and then we were having that conversation. Again, it was centered around really your relationship with God as a man, wanting to be better as a man, and the ego death of a man, and you know, all these different things that there's not necessarily the safest of places for men of color to have those conversations and to be that vulnerable. That's what we were doing. It was like, yo, what we need to record this, you know, and that's how you get those verses.
I love it. And then we get to the later half of Mercy, and I feel like you start writing letters.
Yes.
And Love Me No More.
Poor right, just reach your well to sleep and let the earth decide. You gave up on me just like her, it ain't gon' hurt this time. I found the perfect high, no longer tied to how they feel about me. Fueled by the doubting, 4 albums and counting my dreams, ducking the bounty. Wasn't till writing this verse I realized this wasn't about me. Only wanted to make good on your investment. The tide turned for me by then. You was restless, didn't know which way to turn. Your pops
kind of starts out as a letter to yourself, but ends up being a letter either towards multiple partners or at least one partner that you've had.
You're the GOAT for figuring that out. That's awesome. Because I felt bad, even now, whether it be exes or current situations, or hear something and getting it in your inbox or call you like, yo, fam, what's up?
But here's the thing. They always want a song till they get a song.
Until they get a song, you know? And so for you to figure out that it's multiple relationships, yeah.
What was it like writing that one? I mean, even from Drugs and all of the other songs on here, you're really pouring your heart out and really giving a piece of yourself, like a real untouched piece of yourself. Yep. But to make that one and kind of involve other people and really reflect on yourself and how you maneuver through relationships, what was it like writing that one?
That one, again, it's sort of the formula I figured out on Rock is like, yo, I don't want to edit anymore. That's the ego death again, because even with that, you're wanting to stay in good graces and not rub anybody the wrong way. But that doesn't always lend to the truth of how you felt in situations, how you dealt with certain situations, how you hurt people because you were hurting or you didn't have the right information or you were just ignorant or you were just young and dumb. Like, you know, we try to give so many excuses, but it just was a bad person at one point. But to be able to write about that was so therapeutic. And then it's just a means of holding yourself accountable, because once that's on wax, you can't go back and not get better from there. And that's what it was for me. It's like, yo, I'm saying this because I already feel like a better version of that version of Armani than at this moment, and I want to continue to get better. So this is my way of holding myself accountable, and the world and homies and the fan base or whoever be like, yo, fam, damn, I remember when you was this version. And that's just what it is. So Love Me No More is so funny because I made Love Me No More part 1 because it says it's supposed to say part 2, but that part 2 didn't get put in the title, and I was okay with that because it was like no one heard part 1 anyway but my homies, and they would always be like, yo, you got to make a part 2, you got to make a part 2. And I was like, fam, I was so sad during part 1. I don't never want to be that sad again. And then found myself in a space where I was as sad, maybe even sadder than part 1. So you hear in the beginning of the song, I say part 2, you know, and it's just like, damn, but no one will ever hear part 1, which is a good thing because it's tight, but it's I'm so trash. I'm so trash.
The more you talk about it, the more I want to hear it, but you know, whatever.
I'll send it to you, but ain't nobody else gonna hear that song. That song's so bad.
Oh man. That song really reminds me of, not as far as like what it sounds like, but as far as the subject matter, it really reminded me of Hereditary by J.I.D. And just talking about the way...
He's
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. People who haven't caught on are going to catch on soon.
It's going to be a wrap.
It's nuts. But really talking about a lot of the things we do, I always want to attribute it to like our teenage years and our early 20s. We're just wild, doing whatever, not thinking about
other people,
our motives, other people. Like we're just out acting. However, and he broke it down in that way, and I think what you said kind of mirrored it too, as far as why do I do the things I do, and like what has been embedded in me through what I've been through in my childhood and my life and all those things. And not only calling it out, but forcing yourself to unlearn it. And I think that's so important because no matter who you are, you've seen some dumb shit. And it's caused you to unconsciously act in that same way. So I think that part of it is so important for people to hear, especially going through this journey of life and being like, oh, damn, not everything I learned is necessary. Unlearning is such a real thing.
Couldn't explain it better. Unlearning is a real thing. That's all of me no more is unlearning. 100%.
That leads us to Hold On.
Almost killed my passion up in essence that they made a beast. I'm scared to die, so sanctify. Can't love me and won't pray for me. Basically, say your piece and stay for me. That's latency. Falling far from where you are to pray for me. Woo.
The sound itself on Hold On, man, like I could play that on repeat for days.
Y'all gotta find Bracy. Bracy refuses to show his face. I was like, yo, how to credit you? I'm tagging all the producers. He like, fam, I'm good. I don't want to. And then it came out and everybody like unanimously is everyone's favorite song. And so his way of celebrating that was to just send me another folder of beats.
We need that.
Bracy, my dog, like he came to the studio for the mixing session and everybody was like, he made Hold On. I was like, yeah, and he just talked to everybody, then cut, like disappear. That's his steez. But everybody's like, yo, who made that song? And so I want Bracy to get his proper credit, like, cause he's the truth. Like, bruh, he thinks different. He approaches it different. He sent that to me a while ago and it just sat and I was like, I don't know what I want to do with it. I know it's special, but I want to give it its proper due. And so I did the verses and I did a hook and I thought about Iman and I thought about Murph and but they're always in LA and I was down in LA and I couldn't get with them. I met Mike Sneed at a cypher and bruh's not really a rapper. I guess he sings, but it's like it's Smino and Chance and all them, like, yeah, they sing, but to me, they're the hardest MCs in terms of subject matter. And that's what Sneed reminded me of. It was all melody driven, but he was snapping the hardest in the cypher. And I was like, yo, who the hell is that? And bruh came over at like 9 a.m. and did that chorus. And everybody in the house is like, what the fuck is going on upstairs? Because all the animation and everything, bruh, he can just turn it on at the drop of a hat. And so that's what you hear and Hold On. And that song means so much, you know?
So good. The way the three of you came together, just that sound is, we might need some more of that because, oh man.
Yeah, Mike Sneed, we're gonna work a lot, especially with Track and Z. I think it's only right. We got something special. So.
And then the title track, Mercy.
DJ Flow.
Humble freak said, skip the back and forth, go cop you a shovel. I'm Xing 98, man, fuck it, let's give them double. Not even shame to tell you that my city is the jungle. So play Tarzan if you want, get found out by the dump. These babies kill them for fun. I hope they know that they're love so sincere. Get knife on the phone, jam the times at the Ave, put it in.
Just hit him with the 1-2 though, like in and out.
That's
bang
it.
bang. I talk a lot on this show about length and how length has kind of evolved as streaming is evolving and all these microwave and listeners' attention spans.
Absolutely.
All that. Why only the 1 minute and 37 seconds?
And because a lot of people are doing it now, but I liken it to Madlib and to Dilla and to Doom and to Blue and that whole sort of wave that's pre-2000, 2002, Doom and all them, like, and for me, because I used to get mad at a Madlib track that would only be, because Madlib would hit you with something that's like 50 seconds, and I would be pissed.
Where's the rest?
And I remember my boy Barra, who produced a lot of my early stuff, he gave me this book of short stories, and I read the whole book, had never been so fulfilled from a piece of literature. And the short story, what's so dope about the short story is like, yo, we're not going to take hell of your time. It's going to be really descriptive. It's going to give you everything you need. And it's really going to be a story in the confines of whatever length we decide to give you for said story. So sometimes short story would be give you a paragraph sometimes and you're just like, wait, what? But you're fulfilled, and so I believe music should be the same way. It's like, yo, don't be here longer than you need to be. If you get the thought off, if you get the vibe off in that time frame, and Mercy, man, and because the beat flow, again, it's flow, like flow's the majority of Mercy, and the title track, he's so dope, bruh, so dope. You want to figure out an excuse to rap longer. I said what I wanted to say. In the nosebleed, since PJ got choked out by Spree, it just felt like something. And I was like, yo, I don't want to say no more. Like I did what I needed to say. And then the chorus and then the skit at the end was like, oh yeah, this is a story. This is my short story. I don't need no more.
Super shouts out to DJ Flo, man.
Yeah, Flo the GOAT, man. Our fearless leader. He's working on something special for y'all. I can't wait.
Fearless leader, but just humble,
super
cool,
humble.
Laid back, chill. Like,
don't let him fool you. Nah, he be in the studio talking big shit.
Well, he should be. He should be talking big shit all the time.
He be in the studio talking crazy. Like, there can't nobody mess with me, man. Like, nah.
No, they can't.
I'm kidding. Flow's not like that. He should be, because it's the truth. But he's so humble and he's such a fan. Like, I remember him finding Sndtrak and Zenan and telling me, he's like, I found the next sound for the next 20 years. He's like, they have something special that could change the game forever. And he meant that. And I remember him playing it for me. And I was like, oh, you're not lying. Like, their Sndtrak and Zenan are the truth, And so he has this ear and this lack of ego where he's more about putting everybody on. He's our peanut butter wolf, if you will. Like, he's super talented, but he's more like, nah, I want everybody to shine, So Flow. Thank you, bro.
Man, it's so good. Then we get into the last track, Phoenix.
Shit, where will we ever learn? Pussy, brazen patience. Nigga, wait your turn. Falling for the same shit. And I done it all with me. God, I'm alright.
Sndtrak.
Touched my heart, especially just with the emergency broadcasting. I think I'm always going to be a sucker for media radio aspects. Why was it important to put that on that track?
If you listen to it in succession, Mercy and what bruh's saying at the end, again, it's that holding yourself accountable thing. And then the emergency broadcasting cuts that off. We interrupt that with the message. And what I wanted to say on Phoenix, because that's the ego death track, and so it felt so important to interrupt your experience with the record to let you know that this is a moment for me and hopefully for you as a listener, and it felt right to use that, and it felt like enough people could relate to that sound enough, because when it happens on your TV at home, you're like, fam, what is happening right now, and so I remember thinking about that in the lab. It's like, yo, I want to use that to let people know this is a moment for me, and it worked out.
So striking. And then speaking of letters, that one's, you talk about it being an ego death, but also kind of a letter to your father. what was that like to kind of put that out there?
That was tough because my relationship with my dad is so unique. Like, bruh really is, I do consider him a best friend. Like, if something exciting is going on or if I want to have fun, like, who thinks to call their dad? I do. Like, Pops is like, because all the homies love him. Like, he's hilarious, you know, and in the spirit of learning and becoming better versions of ourselves, I'm realizing how much I'm exactly like my father, you know, and a lot of my early life was spent trying not to be like him, and not on some spiteful shit. It was by his request. He was like, yo, you're going to be better than me. It's this thing that black fathers tend to do. I feel like everybody does. It was like, yo, be better than me, be better than me, be better than me. But there's so much shit that I can't help. I'm like you, you know, like I inherited a lot of your genes and your personalities and your characteristics. And so I'm seeing the ego death portion and the accountability part that I'm working on in myself and the unlearning that I'm doing. I'm trying to get at to my dad because a lot of that shit is holding him back. You know what I'm saying? And it's a strange conversation to have, but it's a necessary one. And that's where that not editing yourself came into play again, because it was like a lot of that second verse was like pieces of songs I've been trying to write for like 7 years, and I just didn't have the confidence to say it. To be honest with you as well, it's like you got to be a man behind that, or you got to stand behind that and have conversations with people. Same with Love Me No More. Like, I had to have really hard conversations with exes about leaving things unopened, and that was just some little boy shit. Not being mindful that there's somebody else's life at stake here when you just vanish or leave things open-ended. Like, you get held accountable for your art, and I'm 100% okay with that. Like, when you think about some of the abrasiveness of the chorus of Phoenix, it's like, why use that language? And it's like, that's how I felt. It's literally what I think, and on a deeper level, I can explain it to you past the surface of it, you know. And if you're only gonna be wrapped up in the surface, that's one thing, but know that it means so much more. And I remember having that conversation with a family friend, a woman who was just like, yo, I love this song, but why those words? And we talked about it, and she was like, damn, you know. And just the power, you know, to put pussy, prayers, and patience, it's power. It's just taking the power back. And I said it on Rock. It's the same thing. Like, it's a theme. It's the synonymous with power versus what we've chosen to make it synonymous with, for me.
No, but I think that's such an important conversation that people don't have, as far as when you're talking about your dad saying, be better than me. But what they don't realize is, if you are lucky enough and, you know, work hard enough to become quote unquote better than them, then there becomes a strange curve to where you're either more successful than them, more mature than them, and that becomes a strange part of a relationship. And then as you become more emotionally mature than them, you want to see them be at that same place as you. And it's so hard to tell someone who's older, like, hey, I think you should change these things about you, and I think you should get help, or, you know what I mean? Just whatever you think that they need to kind of be a better person. And you can only say that because you've done the work to make yourself a better person. And you just think like, man, after a certain age, people are just stuck in their ways and they're not going to change. And especially too, being a child, having that conversation with your parent, like,
it's odd.
It's so weird.
Yeah. I've been lucky though, because my mom, the same boat as my dad, like, genuinely my best friends. And not just saying that, it's life of the party. You're going to see her at the center of it. Every show, every party, whatever, Mom's is there. But the conversation and how open she is to the dialogue, like, yo, Moms, check this out. There was a time growing up where we couldn't talk about like therapy and stuff like that. But since I returned from school, she's like, yo, why you like I went to therapy for the first 3 years of college. You know what I'm saying? And not because I thought I lucked into therapy, you know what I'm saying? So now I'm gonna talk about it and like some of the tools and trying to get that along. Like, she was receptive to it, my dad wasn't, you know, and it just shows the difference. And Pops is coming along, and I do believe he'll get there, but it's, you know, you gotta stay consistent and stay empathetic. And I think the mistake a lot of enlightened children you make when they go back home and trying to get their parents' game is discrediting what the amount of time on earth has provided them that we can't go pay for it. Can't no therapist give us that. So you still got to go be respectful when you're trying to hand on tools. And that's the one thing that I've been mindful of from the rip, is like, yo, this is still my dad. He's still got that pride portion of him, and he's been on this earth and seen a lot more than me too. So being mindful of that while trying to encourage him to be mindful of depression and identify some of those things. And it's just something that goes undiagnosed or misdiagnosed, and or we self-medicate and get in a deeper, darker stupor. And I love bruh, and to get to this space where, because of the sacrifices that he and my mother made, here I am on the verge of something what I think is special that will allow them to live this next 50 years of their life doing things that they living out their wildest dreams, you know. So it means a lot for me for them to be here and be able to experience it with me. Like this next Europe run, I'm trying to take my dad, you know. so that's what it's just stuff like that special.
I love it. Just so much inside of it all. It's so good. Anything else you want to tell the people about Mercy?
I just love the fact that I get to come up here and rap with you and the music like that. It wasn't intentional, if you will. Like, as you know, I'm working on other music and got other things coming. And we looked up one day and Flo was like, yo, did you want to put something out? And I was like, nah, man, I'm working on such and such. He's like, but Monty, look in the drive and look at how many songs you have. To be honest with you, it'd become such a hat, like especially in the studio every single day and leaving with something. Like it'd be different if I wasn't leaving with someone every day, but I was leaving with something. And so for it to only be 10 songs, like we had, like, yo, should we just give a whole playlist? Should we do this? Like, and it's like, nah, let's just make it perfect. What we deem is perfect. And it means a lot because that also is indicative of moving into a new place where the focus and the intentions are there, you know. And so it just meant a lot to drown out the noise and to be able to focus as much as you have on one thing, not realizing that while you were focusing on that other thing, you made this thing that people love. And I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud of that record, how it was made, who it was made with, the production from Flo, from Rye Mann, from Sndtrak, from Zenan, from Bracy, and then Emily and Lock and Mike Sneed and GQ, like all the homies that just came and made it special. And Sal for doing all the artwork too.
It's so good. And to hear you say that you're just in the studio every day just kind of cooking, and for it to be this cohesive, you know, I'm a big fan of cohesiveness. So it's like that's incredible here, because people try their hardest to accomplish something like that and sometimes still miss the mark.
I'm 100%.
So for you to just be in the studio every day and Gina Flo to be like, I think we got something. Like, what?
Yeah, Flo's, again, he's a mastermind. And we were talking about that the other day. It's like, because people are doing like projects with just one producer, and everybody strives for that cohesiveness, and it doesn't always. Sometimes it is with one producer, but then sometimes it's just the intentions and what you're saying, you know. And I was just in a space, and I'm so glad that it's like a screenshot of the space I was in, and we captured it and put it out. That's what Mercy is. Like I'm glad Flo had the idea to do it, because it's such a pivotal moment for me. Had he not said it, who knows? We might not have it. So
it's so good. And before we get out of here, we gotta congratulate you on the Tommy Hilfiger and the Adidas and just all this dope. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, damn, he's doing all this behind the scenes, and then it comes out, and then, like you said, there's other projects to come out. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want us all to win in a real way. So whatever my contribution is to that, I'm just proud to do and to work tirelessly. And so from film to television and to commercials to composing, like there's so much out there that all of us sort of, and you and I sort of connected on the idea of just picking up sort of tools and talents out of necessity, but there's ways for us to monetize said tools that we picked up out of necessity. So I'm trying to make sure all the homies that I know that work as hard as you and work as hard as Kate and work as hard as Sal, we all get recognized, but then get to a point where we can produce all the dope ass ideas we got, you know. And so if going to Amsterdam Dolo for 2 weeks means doing that, I'm all for it, man.
Anything else you want to tell the people?
That's it. No, shout out to Spesh and everything you got going on, and y'all stay locked in, man.
Yay, thank you.
Nah, man, we appreciate you. I tell you all the time, like, it's dope having somebody who cares about what we're doing as much as you do, you know, like, and not just even what we're doing with the label, but all the stuff that I'm into. So then you put me on new stuff, and I'm just like, I'll listen to the podcast, and you'll put me on like, what did I go listen to that I wasn't even That wasn't you. It wasn't Conway and them, was it? It was.
No.
It was something like that, and I was like, damn, I didn't even know that was coming out, and I went and I haven't stopped listening to it. I feel like it was. I don't know, but anyway, you put me on new shit though, so I appreciate you.
That's dope to me, and it's not like I don't create these things to be cared about, but when somebody cares about it, I'm like, oh, like that's dope. Like I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a short list of people that are curating dope stuff, but then also understanding the work that goes behind it. And I think before we met, I was like, oh, damn, she probably has a team. It's probably like 4 or 5 people, because you work like that. And then you're like, nah, it's just me. And I'm like, wait, it's just you in here, so it was dope to see, and it was relatable too. And I just been lucky enough to link with with Flo and Sal and Ethan and Kate and all these different people, like, to lighten the load. But for a really long time it was just me too, so thank you.
Thanks again to Monty Draper for stopping by. We mentioned his podcast a lot. Make sure you check it out. It's called Meet the Brave. And thank you so much for checking out this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that follow or subscribe button on whatever you're listening on, and reach out to me. I love it when you guys say hi or tell me what your favorite part is. I'm on Twitter at SpecialSays, and on Instagram it's at SpecialSays as well. Plus, this whole month of December I'm doing a new project called Who to Hear, where I'm featuring a new artist every single day of December, so you can check that out on my Twitter or my Instagram. Those are both at SpecialSays once again. And as always, this episode is dedicated to Marlon. Do what you can to stop senseless acts of gun violence.